Nerd Nighters and game design fans. This is Paul Saxberg reporting with my DFW Nerd Night Design Contest vlog number 4. I'm here mostly to discuss the results of last night's playtests. I got 3 major playtests in. Again, give people a check-in as to where the game's at and a bit of a hint as to where it's going. So, last night I met at the Sentry Box with a bunch of people. We got my game, which I'm currently calling Convoy Raiders, but that's probably going to change because I think it's really important that I get exactly the right name, and I haven't yet been inspired for that. But in any case, I managed to get it play tested multiple times, both with 2 players and with 3 players, and also with other local designers, and then also with just other local gamers who were willing to volunteer and play test. So that was really, really useful. Now, the first thing I have to say about that is I noticed in the criteria for the contest, there's additional credit awarded for giving people my playtest feedback forms. Now, I'm not in the habit of using those. I recognize their value, I totally do, but normally what I prefer to do is actually watch the playtest or participate in it, depending on the situation, and then interview the people afterwards, ask them questions, take specific notes. So it was a bit of an interesting stretch for me to go ahead and use the playtest forms. I made up some very, very simple ones, modeled after the ones posted on the DFW Nerd Night private group that we've been discussing this on. And I got several of them filled out, and so that was interesting. I would say probably about 85% of the data on these forms is stuff I already knew or just observed or got from my regular interview process. And so I have my own regular notes. This is Paul's style of doing it. But there was some tracks here where I asked people to rate back and forth between a couple of extremes. And there's a couple of bits of data there that I'm not used to getting or did surprise me. So that was an interesting experience. On the whole, the playtest went well. There's definitely things that still need to be improved. There's a couple of, I'd say the category, so to speak, that it scored the best on was, do people want to play it again? I got, out of 30 possible points on that, I got 20 points, and that was the highest rating, so to speak. The worst category was, unfortunately, people didn't feel like they were really in control over whether they were winning or not. I only got 14 out of a possible 30 points there. Between 6 playtesters rating it on a scale of up to 5 apiece. But I've got some ideas already, and I already knew that was an issue, so I've got some things going on. Try and fix that. For anybody not up to speed, and I guess most of you aren't up to speed because I haven't shared a lot of specific details, I got my convoy boxes cut down where I was predicting it to. They actually work really, really well like this. I was afraid that it might be too easy to see inside them. But when you put in some temporary cards, it's fairly easy to pass this around a table without accidentally looking underneath it, unless somebody is trying to cheat. And that's not design a game for those people. For the most part, that's a separate topic. In any case, I got 4 types of cards, and just quickly run through. I've got escort cards, and that's a combat value at the top. You need to assign a D3 pips on a die to destroy that card, or else it takes away one of your treasure ships. The cargo ships are the treasure ships, and so that's a victory point value at the top. If there's no escorts, you can just take them and put them in your scoring pile. We have privateer ships, which are kind of like a hybrid of the two, where they're attempting to attack you. But in this game, they can't actually hurt you, but they can just damage your ship, essentially. So what you do is, if a privateer attacks you and you don't assign combat dice to destroy it, you take this and put it into your scoring pile, and it counts a negative value against you. And then we have the science ships. The science ships are basically like treasure ships, except instead of victory points, they're giving you a combat bonus or some sort of technology bonus, which is going to help you build your engine within the game. And then I got some special ships, and actually I'm totally going to create a bunch more. I had the excellent suggestion from one of my playtesters saying, there really needs to be about a dozen special ships, and you don't know which ones are going to show up in any given game. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that, so I'm totally using that suggestion. Let's see here. In general, I actually think the system is working fairly well. Combat is too easy. We tried in the very final playtests changing it to be dramatically harder for the players, and that made it too hard. but the system was still interesting, whether it was easy or hard. So I think it's just a question of setting the right dials, and I've got a bunch of different dials to mess with in that respect. I can up and down the percentage of good ships versus bad ships. I can increase the combat values of the bad ships. I can increase the negative point values of the privateers. I've got a lot of dials I can play with, so that's just going to be a question of how much playtesting can I get in before the deadline arrives. The technology, likewise, is too good, so I just have to scale that back a little bit or make some of the things more into one-shot deals, so on and so forth. The other thing I'd really prefer to see from sort of an aesthetic standpoint is a little bit more waiting and a little bit less attacking, because what I want to see happen is most players spend their turn doing the reverse draft, putting the card in there and waiting for the right moment to attack instead of just attacking constantly. At one point when the combat was too high, one of my players just started attacking every turn because there was really no reason for him not to. He couldn't lose the battle. And so that broke that playtest, and that can't be allowed to happen. What needs to happen is if that emergently arrives within the game, is the other players need to recognize that's what that guy's doing, and they need to start putting bad ships into his convoys that will beat him up and make him pick and choose when to attack instead. So scaling things back will help with that. The other thing that I've been considering doing is right now, after a combat, after you resolve this combat, you basically redraw your hand up, and you start a new convoy going. Starting a convoy, of course, you pick 2 ships out of your hand, presumably like a couple of bad ones or a couple of good ones, whatever. You put one of them face up, so if it's an attractive ship with VPs on it, you're tempting people into attacking this convoy, or you're bluffing. Or if it's a bad guy, then you're basically saying to everybody else, did I put something valuable under there, or is it another bad guy and I'm trying to trap you into attacking it? But what I may experiment with is the idea that you can start convoys out larger, so that there's more cards in the economy, and it allows players to have either a stronger hammer hidden behind that or a stronger reward, and so that will increase the bluffing and decision making. That's probably where the next playtest goes. I'm satisfied enough with the general engine, though, that instead of doing all these funky handmade cards on old prototype cards, what I'm going to do now is actually do them up on the computer, just in some very basic graphics, so that it looks better, feels better in your hands, and then after a couple of playtests, it's at the point now where I'll just be able to go in and modify those graphics files instead of coming up with entirely new ones. And then hopefully those will be the basis of what I end up sending in for the DFW Nerd Nighters to judge, and also my fellow Doom artisans in Ottawa. The other thing I'm going to start doing now is writing down the rules, and I know that a lot of people are already at that stage or have been refining them and perfecting them, but to me that's kind of a parallel to graphics design work. I don't want to go too far into it until I know that, yes, this is what I'm doing, because otherwise it feels to me like wasted effort, like I have to garbage it and start again. And sometimes that kind of effort you can find things along the way while you're doing it, or it can inspire things, or you can spot a hole while you're doing it that you wouldn't have noticed until playtesting otherwise. In this case, I'm under a timeline, so I really don't want to waste any unnecessary effort. I want my efforts to all be productive. With that in mind, then, I'm going to cut this video short here because there's nothing more I really need to say. So thanks all again for following and supporting. I'm so pleased to see all of your designs. Some really interesting things coming out of this. I have got my work cut out for me. This is a tough competition. So good luck, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, and my mouse is dead, so apparently get 3 more seconds of it.